My name is Candlin Carey. I was born in Odessa, Texas. I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and this is kind of my story. My father died when I was about 6 years old. My mother was in a mental hospital at that time. Eventually, I came to Abilene. My grandmother lived here for many years, and she took me in. Eventually, my mother came home from the hospital. After my mother came home, another family member came to live with us. I'm just going to call him Joe. The first time I was sexually abused by Joe, I woke up one night and he had crawled into my bed and put his hand over my mouth. I remember not even knowing what to think, not even really understanding what had even happened. You know, when this whole thing started for me, I was about 7 years old. And then it seemed like I tried to stay as far away from him as I could. And when he figured that out, he started trying to pursue sexually abusing me on a regular basis. I would just simply go crawl under a bridge and just hide. I would just hide and just stay away for as long as I could until I knew that possibly, you know, somebody might be home besides Joe that could protect me. And when there wasn't anybody there, then I got raped. At 7, I was running away from home. I was alone. And to be honest, for a long time, even at that age, I was desperately hoping that I could somehow, some way, go to heaven and be with my dad. I didn't know that that was a death wish at that age, but that's how I felt. Things, you know, with Joe had escalated to being dragged out into the garage, and he would rape me with broomsticks, hot light bulbs. He liked to hang me up by the wrists in the rafters in the garage. He liked to zap me with a car battery, different areas in my body. His goal was to make me scream and cry. And the more I screamed and the more I cried, the more he got out of it. Things just escalated to a point that I was sure that he was trying to kill me. By the time I was 9, 10 years old, he was a big-time drug dealer now. He was dealing in coke, heroin, PCP. He was throwing these huge weekend parties for his friends and for all these people that he was trying to make contacts with. During all of these big parties, he decided that, well, he had all of these people around, so he decided that he was going to make some money off of it. And so he started to drag me into the garage and would string me up like a deer or tie me down on a mattress that was in the garage. And he would prostitute me out, sell me for sex for $1 a turn. And mattress was kept back here, kind of in the back corner, where this beam right here. My hands were tied here, feet tied over here. This was a hellhole, basically, in a garage. And a lot of times he would drug me up because he didn't want me to make much of a fuss. I can remember a few times counting the men that would crawl up on top of me, and I could remember that there would be, you know, 30 or 40 of them a night. I remember thinking, that my life just could not get any worse. I met this teenage guy that kind of took a liking to me, and I kind of took a liking to him. And at that point in time in my life, I was so bruised and battered and beaten, and I had absolutely nothing left of me, that I had no self-esteem. You know, I honestly didn't know that when it came to sex that I could say no to anyone. I was so used to being taken and being used that I didn't even hardly think anything about when this guy, you know, was like, hey, let's go do it. I'm like, well, okay, all right. I never even really questioned it too much. I guess that sounds so stupid, but it's true. I never really thought that much about it. I was so used to being used, it was almost second nature to me. When I was 12, I got pregnant and went through my pregnancy, had a child when I was 13. Of course, I had to drop out of school. I was in middle school. Back then, I was the only person that ever did that, so I received much hell from my schoolmates for that. Of course, they had absolutely no idea what I had been through. I had made a decision that I was going to go through the pregnancy, that I was going to give the child up for adoption. I wanted to keep the child, but my life was an absolute hell, and I knew that there was no way that I could possibly bring another human being into that life. I didn't want to be in that life, much less bring an innocent baby. As painful as it was a closed adoption. I do not know where the child went, and through all of it, that was probably the most painful. If you have been hurt by someone else in any way, be it physical, mental, emotional, sexual, whatever the case may be, my story is just one. Your story is just as devastating. It's just as real, and it's just as important. The reason why I am telling my story is so that other people will be encouraged by it, number one, hopefully, and number two, that if they've been a victim and they have not ever spoke to anybody about it, or they're hurting and they need help, that they will find the help that they need, that they will seek the peace that they need, because I can speak from personal experience. They will never be able to have any joy or any peace in their heart until they can find a way to come to terms with what has happened or is happening, or whatever the case may be. So I just encourage everyone, anyone that is watching, listening, that if you're hurting, get the help that you need. And if you know someone that is hurting, stand up, help them. I understand being afraid. I understand being a victim. But don't be a victim anymore. Don't be afraid anymore. As you can well imagine, there's been great amounts of hatred and anger and overwhelming burdens and just things that I've carried around for years and years and years and years and years. And the most important thing in all of this, I believe, you have to find peace. These things will absolutely destroy you. The hatred and the anger. Get the help that you need. Everyone has different ways of finding those things. But I just encourage everyone that has suffered with the same kinds of things that I have, that please find help. Please talk to someone. Don't stop searching until you find the answers and the peace that you need, because it is worth it. Never give up. Don't stop fighting. Life is too precious and too beautiful. Take my word from somebody that has been through it. It's worth it. It's a struggle, but it's worth it.